Welcome back, everybody, to the Daily Racing Show here at RacePlazaMedia. My name is Milan.
My name is Pia.
And we are back with some race recaps.
Yes.
We're going to be talking about two different series today. Yesterday's video was all about the Supercross race. So if you missed that, make sure to check that out. Mm-hmm. But before we get into it,
here's the intro.
All right. So first things first, let's talk about Indy.
Yes, we watched our very first Indy race this weekend. You have made a video earlier this year about it, breaking it down a little bit and also comparing F1 to Indy, which people went crazy
about. This is really comparing apples to oranges.
Exactly, which is true, which you also stated in the video, but people still went wild.
F1 is the best. Don't ever look at her. That's my impression of all the angry people. Relax.
Yeah, it was funny though, but it was great to finally watch our very first one. We had shared the news last week that they got a new aero screen at the Grand Prix of Long Beach last weekend. So this weekend they were racing in Alabama. And so, we watched our first race. It was on an actual racetrack. It wasn't an oval. It was not a street race.
Which was also my preference.
Yes,
I think my first, I wanted it to be a street race. I will say I was surprised by the amount of laps.
I know. It was a total of 90 laps. They raced for almost 2 hours. So the total race time was like 1 hour, 56 minutes and some change, which was longer than expected.
To be fair, there was also many safety cars, many yellow cars.
That was
yellow
true,
flags.
Which was also unexpected. I think the couple of things that were takeaways for me was how much more physical they were. The elbows were out and they constantly bumped into each other. And I was also surprised how little effect it sometimes had on the race, because not a lot of people DNF because of
that's true.
Necessarily, or it was not just because of that.
I mean, there is a few people that DNF because of, someone hit someone else, but the majority of DNFs were just like technical failures, or mechanical failures.
A lot more people recovered from the bumps than I had anticipated, or that we're familiar with from like Formula One.
I think it helps that it was a track, so you have runoff area, right?
Very true.
Even though they are like gravel or sand traps, it's not like the cars didn't tend to get stuck in them, especially if they were able to keep the momentum.
Yes, that's very true. Like a lot of people were able to just continue through the gravel, but I also thought it was a lot less pieces fell off the cars.
Yes, absolutely.
Compared to our big comparison, especially in single seaters, is of course F1.
Yeah, I mean, I think it maybe has also to do with the speeds, and I don't know, and probably maybe they're obviously built very differently.
Yeah.
I will say it was also really interesting to remind you in mid-race that they don't have power steering.
I know.
Because I just feel like Indy doesn't really talk about that. I know maybe for if you're in the Indy series, you're like, it's normal.
Yes.
But it's just not. It's the outlier compared to all the other open wheel series. I believe the majority of all of them have power steering.
Yeah.
From F4 to F1, from I think Super Formula Regional, they all have power steering.
I think there's a couple junior Formula categories that don't have it. I forgot which one it is, but I mean it's still so Indy is essentially the top category of INDYCAR is the top category of Indy, and it's kind of crazy to me that they don't have power steering.
Yes, I mean. Yeah, I don't know. Is there a subdivision?
I mean, there's Indy Next, which is the junior league.
Oh, okay.
So that's why.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I forgot.
I would say that's why it's the top category. Yeah. But I was really surprised, and I was really trying to pay attention because there was a lot of correcting that they, of course, had to do, as you do during a race. But just imagining that they have to really force it, and they are going at high speeds. They are.
What does it say? Average speed was 106 miles per hour. I'm assuming it's miles.
I would,
it's Indy.
I would imagine. And then I also thought was very interesting because it is essentially an American racing series that there were very few Americans on the track.
Yes.
I don't know off the top of my head, and I meant to look it up before we started filming how many people are actually American. There's American teams.
Yes.
But there's a lot of like Europeans in there. There's the top 2 people were from New Zealand and Australia.
Yeah, Oceania. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was very interesting considering it is an American
sport. Yeah, like in Supercross, what we also like to watch.
Yes.
Like you have like
majority Americans.
Majority are Americans, and then you have a few, like you have some Brits in there, French, German,
Japanese.
So you have a few, but like those are the outliers.
Exactly.
Right?
And here I feel like it's the other way around, which I thought was
interesting.
Curious. Yes, exactly. Yeah. But I mean, it was an interesting race, like you've mentioned. There was a bunch of yellow flags.
But I was just going to say, maybe that also speaks for Indy because it attracts people from all different, all over the world.
Yeah. And I mean, we have former F1 race car driver Romain Grosjean, who's in it. We have Pato O'Ward, who's a McLaren reserve driver. So there is definitely some overflow or overlapping between those categories, because it is, dare I say, similar, but not. No, maybe let me not say that.
Take it right back. Take it right back.
But it is a single seater competition, so at least that's what it is.
Yes, yeah, but I think it's yeah.
I mean, it's not F1. Like we know that.
We never said it was. Okay, it's 2 separate things.
It's very different.
Okay, they have a screen. They have a halo. They go faster. They go in the oval. Okay, let's talk about the race before we anger the internet even more.
Exactly. But yeah, so it was a really like dodging the bullets for sure. So it was 90 laps. There was 2 big strategies that teams were going with, either a 3 pit stop or a 2 pit stop, which was also very interesting because there were so many yellow flags. I think we had a total of 4 safety car yellow flags throughout the race. There was a lot of potential switching of strategies, or people pitted earlier than they would have normally because you save time in the pits when you go through when you go on a safety car. But I also thought it was interesting that of course the pits are slower just because they have less people participating in the pits, but also that they're refueling.
Yeah.
I think at least once or twice they refueled
twice,
which I thought
out of the 3 pit stops that they did.
If they did 3 pit stops, which I thought was also that wasn't something I had thought about early, like because we know it. Let's say it again. F1 used to do it, but they don't do it anymore.
For many years. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's why I'm like, I was surprised that that's a thing.
I guess in the way it is right now, if you're going that many laps, you don't have an option.
Yes.
Unless,
of course. Yeah.
I will say I was surprised by the amount of push to pass people had left at the end.
I know.
I was very surprised. I don't know if it was harder for them to gauge due to the amount of safety cars, and they were always waiting for the right opportunity and then another one. But I was surprised that by like the 4th, so 4 laps left, that some people had over 100 seconds left.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well. I was very surprised. I do wish they would have showed those numbers more frequently because I like to see it. For example, in Formula E, they show the battery and also how many of those special like overtakes they get to do or have left. So I would have liked to just have like a little tracker on the side, because throughout the race, we watched the whole 90 laps of it. They only showed it towards the end like twice or so, which I would have liked, because I like to have the information, because I want to think about like, oh, when would I use it, or when figure out my own strategy. And
I'm sure it's also not easy for the broadcaster, because
of course,
because in F1, not to keep but in F1 you have DRS, and you know where the DRS zone is, and you know when someone is within DRS. But with push to pass, they obviously get to dictate when they want to use it.
Yes.
They can use it essentially to defend, attack, or just increase lap times. Right? So it is harder for them to show that, but like you said, I wish they would have made it more clear for viewers.
Yes, because I would just like to see when they use it, and just to figure out also their strategies and to learn more about it. But congratulations to especially Team Penske or Penske, because 2 of their drivers who, I mean, I'm sure you heard the news this week, they've got a penalty from the first race because they used the push to start when they weren't allowed to use the push to pass. So 2 of the drivers were disqualified. It was McLaughlin and Newgarden, exactly. Thank you. Those were disqualified, and then Power got a penalty for it.
I think a 10-point penalty.
Yes, and then but then this race, McLaughlin won the race. He started on pole, and then he ended up leading over 50 laps of the race, and then he came in first, and then his teammate Will Power came in second. Newgarden had some trouble throughout the race. He got caught up in, my favorite word, the carfuffles, a few of them. So unfortunately, he didn't join them on the podium. However, newbie Linus Lundqvist was able to land on the podium, which was really nice as well.
I think, honestly, it seemed to me that at some point Christian Lundgaard had the was in a race to be on the podium, but then his pit stop was just really, really weird, where they pitted him quite earlier than everyone else.
Yes.
And of course, like, the safety cars and everything throws everything off, but they ended up, the way they timed it was that he ended up in the middle of traffic.
Yes.
And I think you're just kind of setting your driver up for failure, because it just slows you down so much, because at the time he was on third.
Yes.
Right. And he now finished in sixth. So I'm not saying like there wasn't nothing else going on, but I thought it was a very odd choice.
That was definitely true. I mean, I was talking about Newgarden, who ended up coming in 16th.
Yeah, I'm just mentioning him.
But definitely. That was definitely a weird strategy that we both had seen.
And then if you're looking at it, also the top three did 3 pit stops, and then you have some 2 pit stops behind. So and in general, like, if you go a little bit further down, you have a lot of people who did 2 pit stops. So it seems like the 3 pit stop was the ideal strategy if you were able to get it timed right.
They were also talking about 2-time Indy champion Alex Palou. Is it how you say Palou? He was on the 2 pits category, and he had to save a lot of tires and fuel at the end, which the safety cars did help with it. However, he did, like, his lap times were like 2 to almost 3 seconds slower than McLaughlin at the end. So it didn't make a big difference. I mean, he still ended up in 5th, which is great, especially also for the overall championship for him. So if we look at the overall championship right now, Colton Herta is first right now. I have not seen him or heard of him the entire race.
Apparently, this is the first time he's ever in his career led
which
the championship.
Is great
so
congratulations.
For him. Good job. How did he end in the race? Sorry, Colton.
He was 8th. He came in 8th, which is not bad. But there's so much that happened throughout the race. I did not hear his name once. Really.
It's also nice. So Will Power is in 2nd.
Yes.
Which I'm excited for him, because he's the only one out of the McLaren drivers who didn't do the illegal
the Penske drivers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sorry. McLaren ended up winning out of the Penske, who didn't use the push to pass illegally. But I think because it was enabled in his car, and they just did the sweeping, like, you guys are all getting penalized.
Yeah.
But it's good to see that he's just 1 point off of the top step.
Yes, and so then Alex Palou is 3rd currently, but I mean, it's still really early in the championship. It's just the 3rd race out of 17, so there's a lot more racing to come. I do want to watch a couple more races. I'm intrigued. I'm not convinced yet about Indy, to be honest, but I do want to watch it also on an oval just to have seen it. I also would like to see it on a street race just to have seen it.
Yes, I will say, though, it didn't help that we watched INDYCAR after we watched the other thing that we watched to transition into that, which is MotoGP.
Oof.
And once again, MotoGP, what an intense and insanely good race.
Might as well just talk about it.
Exactly.
I mean, I was a little bit nervous going into it. Last weekend, was it last weekend or 2 weekends ago? We had the Austin race, which was absolutely crazy. Like the best race of the season thus far. However, I feel like Spain this weekend came a close second.
They were like, listen, you guys think you guys know what you're doing? Let's show. We're gonna show you guys. And it was an insanely good race. I think I enjoyed it just as much, because at the end we really had a battle for the first place up until like the last lap, really.
Yes.
And it was really, really exciting.
It was so exciting. It was also cool to see, because I hadn't thought about it going into it. It was essentially a home race for 11 of the drivers or riders on the grid.
And the audience was so loud. It would pick it up on the mic sometimes. Like, they will obviously show it. Yeah. And it was so loud. The atmosphere must have been insane to attend that event.
So incredible. And also, I feel like the layout of the track, we talked about it briefly, like where the grandstands were, you saw so much action because those were the turns or corners where a lot of it would potentially or could potentially happen, and where a lot of stuff happened.
Yes.
So it was overall a great track to watch them race on.
Absolutely.
It started off with Marc Marquez on pole, which was really nice to see, and I was really rooting for him. Without spoiling anything, he didn't crash out, which I was so relieved, because him and then Bagnaia had an
defending champion Francesco.
Exactly, had an incredible race. I mean, Bagnaia won the last 2 years in Spain already, so he was coming in hopefully winning his third. He started on the third row, so he was not necessarily a top favorite.
No.
I mean, you cannot count out Bagnaia, like, you can't. But he was definitely not necessarily considered one of the favorites.
Because his starting position was difficult.
Exactly.
He was on a hunt.
Oof.
I don't know, one of the first couple laps he jumped like 2 people. It just seemed like his bike was insanely fast, or he was able to pick them
he
off.
was able to like dive into
and
corners.
really control it. And I mean, he also set the race lap record.
Yes.
With I forgot.
I know, but at first Marc Marquez had broken it, and then Bagnaia was like, "No way, I'm gonna do this."
Yes. This is my hometown.
No, it's definitely not. He's Italian.
But he was like, "I'm leaving my stamp here."
Yes.
I will say, however, so we first actually had Jorge and Martin leading the race. He was able to overtake Marc Marquez.
Yes.
However, he ended up kind of like, I guess, losing balance or dropping the bike, and then he was out of the race, which we both agreed on. It's very unfortunate. We don't want anyone to crash.
No.
But it was very good for the championship.
For the overall, because he was leading by quite a bit already, and I mean, it's still early, so you want a little bit more of a competition. So now, I mean, he's still in the lead. He's still the overall lead for the overall championship, but the field is a little bit tighter now.
Because at that point, so he was leading the race. Bagnaia was in second, I believe. Then you had Besecchi.
Yes.
And then it was Marc Marquez. And then I think the moment Martin kind of dropped out, I don't know, Marc Marquez was like, okay, now's my moment.
Yeah, he saw like a little
and then he was battling Besecchi for a minute, and then I think Besecchi's also, his tires were not.
Oh, it looked so scary because he kept shaking and had to correct. I mean, he did a wonderful job at it, especially at these insane speeds that they go. But I mean, Marc Marquez just saw the weakness and he took advantage of it. So then he ended up fighting with Bagnaia.
Yeah, so he was able to overtake Besecchi, and then there was a gap in between them, and then he was fighting Bagnaia, and they were fighting literally until like the last laps. They were fighting, and then they were like Marc got on the inside and then on the outside, and then Bagnaia came around again, and it was, oh my god, this was insanely good racing.
So insane.
Like, please check it out if you are in the US and you have HBO Max. Check it out. What an insanely good race.
If you don't want to watch the full race, which it is not a long race at all.
No, it's less than an hour.
Which I love about MotoGP. But if you go to around start at lap 15, so you miss the really crazy action, especially because also Marc Marquez had like touched Bagnaia's front wheel for a good minute. You could see it at the end that his like I was gonna say armor was shaved, but like you could see it. I mean, but Marc Marquez was like, "This is my line. Like, you get out of my way." And then Bagnaia had to get out of the way. And there was moments when they were taking turns with the lead, and the leaderboard on the side didn't even catch up with it.
Couldn't catch up. And I will say also in the post-race interview, it was really cool to see that you can see like this was like Marc Marquez's best race. This is the first time now that he's with his Ducati on the podium
for the main race, and also he had crashed out last race.
Exactly. So it's really good to see, and you could just tell in his post-race interview, like he enjoyed it.
Yes.
But he's so hungry.
Oh,
like you really have to watch out because he looks hungry.
He's like, how do you say? He smelled like.
Yeah.
He got like the.
He got like a scent.
Yes, and he's like, just like, ooh, I can do this.
Yes,
I'm
think
back.
Like him and the bike are. He also said that in an interview that him and the bike are now really working together.
He's inside the bike now. Yes,
they're like got their union.
Yes, that makes me so excited for this upcoming season.
Someone I wanted to also mention really quick, the rookie that everyone has their eye on, Pedro Acosta. He ended up crashing in qualifying, so he ended up starting from the back. He finished in 10th place.
Yes.
Which I think is good. But
I mean, it is his worst result this season, which is also just mind-boggling because he is a rookie. and he's been on the podium so many times already, or also close to the podium this whole time. So 10th is still great.
Yeah, but it was I mean, I think it's we were talking about it, I'm sure, not to compare it to F1 again, but like in MotoGP, you don't get like DRS or push to pass and stuff like that. So overtaking can sometimes be much more difficult because you also have to manage your tires and everything. You have much less grip.
Yeah.
And especially if you saw Marc Marquez at the end, how much his bike was shaking, and he really squeezed out everything there was in that grip of the tire. It was insane. Which, on the other hand, it was really interesting to see that Bagnaia almost didn't seem to have that many or those problems at all, because like I think like what is it, with like 6 laps to go or something like that, that's when he set the race.
Yeah, it was absolutely insane, because they had these couple of laps where they went like back and forth, and then Bagnaia suddenly like just turned on another level, and then
he was like 200s faster.
Yeah, and then he drove out another lead, and then you knew kind of like this is gonna be it. I mean, they still ended up with like 0.3 of a difference.
I think he was 2/10 faster. I think not 200.
Yeah, but I mean, it was just an incredible race. It was so much fun to watch, and also congratulations to Bisecchi. I
said Bisecchi.
Yeah, Bisecchi, because I mean, it was nice to see him on the podium, and he's also said that his season so far hasn't been as great, and also the end of last season wasn't as great.
Yeah.
So it was nice to see him on the podium, and then Bagnaia and him celebrated greatly because they're both fellow Italians.
And Valentino Rossi was there.
Oh yes, it was so fun to see him there. And stay tuned, we're going to bring out a Valentino Rossi video out this upcoming week, just to, because I'm curious about him. He's such a legend. So we're going to talk some more about him this week. But so just taking a quick look at the overall championship standing.
And then also saying again, for going back to what I said earlier, like Jorge Martin being out of the race because of his crash, like he's still up almost 20 points.
I know.
Like he's up, what is it? Like
17
points?
Yeah.
That's still a lot. So that's what I meant with like it's good for the championship.
Yes,
so he's in the lead with 92 points, and
Bagnaia is now second. He made up a couple of spots due to his win today. Then Bastianini is third, and Pedro Acosta, the rookie, is still fourth, which is just absolutely incredible. But
I just saw the team is Ducati Lenovo, so it's bikes and laptops. I didn't realize that.
Yes, that's what it is.
Sorry, guys.
But yeah, I feel like it's still going to be a really fun couple of races coming up. I think they have a week off now. So they're going to be back in 2 weeks at Le Mans, which is going to be exciting to see.
Yes. And then, sorry, just for a completion, Marc Marquez is in 6th place with 60 points. So he's like 32 points away from the top spot.
Yeah, but I mean, there's still a lot of races to come.
Many races
and
to
I mean,
go.
he did crash out now, or previously. So there's room.
There's room. But yeah, we were talking also that, so the first race of the MotoGP season was kind of like the first race of the F1 season. It wasn't as exciting. There wasn't that much happening. Besides, I think Pedro Acosta's performance is really what I remember the most.
Yes, exactly.
But now, like, the last 2 races were just so good.
And I get it now. Like, I get why people like MotoGP. I mean, it's so stressful to watch. I get so stressed out.
When they're, like, twitching.
When they're twitching and they're so close to each other. And then, like, of course, they don't look at each other when they pass. Like, no. But also, like, they always just look where they're going, which makes sense.
Honestly, it almost seems almost cooler. Like, I'm not even looking
like,
at you.
So,
I'm like
ice cold.
Yeah.
But it's
They're
just
like always looking to, like, wherever you're going.
Of course, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But it's just like, because it's millimeters often, and it's just so impressive. But then you also know at any moment the bike could just like leave under you, and it's also not necessarily up to the rider's control. Because, I mean, Jorge Martin had not made any mistakes this season yet. And he even said in his, like, post-race chat or when he went out that it was just, like, it was gone.
Yeah.
The bike was gone.
It's maybe just, like, that little bit you asked a little bit too much for grip. And then And then I'm also surprised how much contact there is without people crashing out. Like, so the gentleman that also got
Sarko,
that DNF'd at some point rode on Acosta's back almost, it seems like.
Oh, that was so scary. Yeah.
And then a few laps later he ended up getting taken out by another driver.
Yeah, it was by
was it Miller?
Morbidelli.
Oh, Morbidelli.
Yeah,
yes.
they and him and Sarko crashed together. This time it wasn't Sarko's fault. It was maybe a little karma from the interaction with Acosta earlier. But I mean, it was, and they almost got into a fist fight because
Bordelli, he thought that Morbidelli, sorry, Morbidelli thought that it was Sarko's fault. But if you watch the replay, it's pretty clear that he went way too wide.
Yeah.
And he should have stayed on that
line. I mean, the commentators did say there's two different lines that you can take in that corner. But I mean, Sarko was clearly on that one line.
And it's also, he was doing the overtaking. Was he doing the overtaking?
I don't remember, but it was not Sarko's fault.
Okay. So leave him alone. But anyways, that is everything that we've watched this weekend. It was really, really great race weekend.
Yes, exactly.
Lots and lots of fun things to watch.
Yes.
If you want to know what you can watch, then check out our website,
three W's.
I should just say RacePlazaMedia.com. We have our racing calendar on there where it breaks down what you can watch, when you can watch it, and where you can watch it. It's completely free. There's no charge. So check it out so you don't miss out on any racing.
Yes, and then the new schedule is coming out May 1st. We're vigorously working on it. There's a lot of racing coming up, guys, for May. I think we have like over 200 races on the calendar thus far. So be ready to watch lots and lots of exciting races this upcoming month. We will also post, as per usual, our weekly video just breaking down what's coming up for the specific weekend.
Which just highlights things because it's too many at this point to name every single one. Links are in the description box below.
Exactly.
Let us know what you guys watched this weekend, what you guys' thoughts are, and how the Indy races went, how the MotoGP or what else you guys watched, because there's so much. There was Formula 4. I'm still going to try to see if I can go back and watch of that because I think it's the British.
Yes,
Formula
the British
4.
Championship. Yes.
And Formula 4 is lit. Don't sleep on it.
So
Don't
good.
Sleep on it.
And we'll tell you more about that soon. So stay tuned.
All right. And you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Like and subscribe. And